Welcome back to Gaming Wisconsinbly. I don't even know what episode this was,
Number
Dave.
12.
Number 12. Sounds about right.
Yep.
Today, in a moment here, we're going to talk about two of like my favorite games of all time. And we're talking about one, Mario RPG, specifically because there was a remake coming out in November of last year. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we're a few months late on that, but who cares? We've both been busy and shit. And
yeah.
I got sick and had surgery and all sorts of other shit. So we're finally getting around to that. But as a secondary game, for some reason, we just chose Earthbound. It's kind of just a quirky, weird RPG that kind of goes hand in hand with Mario RPG.
I think it fits because they're both games that I just kind of steered clear of. I saw them as kiddie RPGs back in the day, back when the N64 was newish. You know, I didn't really give them a proper chance, let's say.
Yeah, and they were kind of perfect for me because I was about 10 when both of these things came out.
Yeah.
Actually, I was a little bit, what was I, probably 8 when Earthbound came out?
Yeah, because Mario RPG came out in 96 and Earthbound came out in 95.
Okay.
And yeah, I would have been... Yeah, like, blah, blah, blah.
I was like 9 when Earthbound came out.
Yeah. So
9 or 10, depending on the date, but...
Yeah, so I was almost an adult then, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to get to those two in a moment. Oh, I have an adorable meowing kitten outside the door. Oh my god, you should just let her in. She's cute.
Yeah.
We need our little podcast kitten. She's adorable. Just got a cat like, how many months ago was that, Dave? Like 4? Something like that?
So, yeah. All right.
Oh, of course, now she doesn't want to come in. She just wants to meow. She's so cute. Come here.
There we go.
Oh, power kitten. Oh my gosh. Anyway. Oh my god. Distracting. Kitten is so distracting, but she's cute. All right, break everything before we get back into it, please.
Yep.
Break it all.
That's how
break
it works.
Stuff. Knock over Dave's drink. Oh, how cute. Anyway, I did want to talk about a rant that I have. So, I mean, this kind of goes hand in hand. Every time we do this, within the few months or so break between, like, I always deal with just, like, the weirdest people on Facebook just trying to sell stuff and get some extra cash so I can keep collecting. So I've had 2 recently that were almost the exact same experience. I don't know. Did I ever tell you about the blind person that I met? Or no, I'm sorry, deaf person that I met?
I don't think so.
Okay. So this was, kitten again. This is a few months back. Person hit me up, and I had no idea they were deaf from Facebook, because obviously you're just typing back and forth. They just wanted to buy a Nintendo 64 of mine. Like, all right, cool. Like, what else? Do you want to look at anything else? They said, yeah. So they gave me a list of things to bring out. So I met them out at the gas station. I'm just like, all right, here's everything. Just let me know what you want. And I didn't realize he was deaf, and so he started talking to me, and I'm like, oh boy, like I'm not sure if I'm suited for this, because never had to deal with it before. I know dick about sign language.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any like paper on me or anything. And it just so happens the person very, very particular, like was eyeballing everything, like for the minorest scratch you've ever seen, for the smallest little smudge.
Yeah.
Like literally taking a joystick of a Nintendo 64 controller and like nudging it millimeter by millimeter to see like how tight the stick was. I'm just like, holy shit. Like I've never dealt with somebody that this particular about stuff.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I had them priced like a little high and stuff, but I was able to barter. But it turns out that like we weren't able to communicate that well because I didn't know anything.
Yeah, that's
and he's trying to communicate with me, and all of a sudden he goes and grabs his girlfriend out of his car. I'm like, oh great, okay, maybe she can interpret for us.
Yeah.
Turns out she was also deaf.
Oh.
I'm like, holy shit, like what am I supposed to do? So I'm trying to communicate with both of them about a price for one of the 64s because they wanted some money off for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We ended up working out a deal in the dirt in my back windshield.
Yeah.
Such a pain in the ass.
That sounds like something you should just text back and forth or something.
Something.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow. Okay, this is interesting. But like, it wouldn't have been a problem if they just showed up with the cash for what they wanted. Instead, they wanted to sit there and barter. And I'm just like, wow, I don't know how the hell to barter with the deaf person.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got done with that. I mean, it was interesting. It wasn't really a giant pain in the ass experience or anything, but
just different. Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
More onto almost the exact same type of buyer. So I had a guy, I listed up, like, I found like 6 extra, like, perfect GameCube controllers recently. And I'm like, I don't need these. Like, because I have like 8 Wavebirds and a bunch of other extra, like, really nice condition controllers. I'm like, dude, I'll just sell these off. Like, I'm out of systems, so whatever. So I only put them up for like $25 a piece. And these were like perfect controllers, like 9 out of 10 sticks, maybe 10 out of 10, like perfect. Well, I meet this guy at the gas station on like a frigid cold day where it's like literally raining ice. It's like one of those days.
Yeah.
And it's windy as hell. And he's just like, yeah, just bring all of them. I'm just going to check them out quick and just buy whichever ones I want. I'm like, great, fine, perfect. Yeah. So I get the box out in the hood of my car. And of course, it's like blowing off because the wind is so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm freezing my ass off because typically I'm just in shorts and sandals because I just go and meet him. I'm like, here's the thing, hand me your money and we call it a day. Oh, no. He also wanted to sit by and like take these sticks and just nudge them millimeter by millimeter to see like if they were perfect or if they were slightly shitty.
Yeah.
Did that for like 40 straight minutes. I kid you not. Wow. I'm out there freezing my fucking ass off. Yeah. I'm about ready just to snap on this guy. I'm just like, dude, these are like perfect. Like, what do you want? Yeah. Like, I'm going to show you, Dave. I'm going to show you. Hold on.
If they're not new old stock, what do you expect?
Like check this out. I don't care. I'll pause the podcast. I don't give a shit. I'm going to try to find a GameCube controller just to show you. I have them somewhere, damn it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think the one I got from you was pretty darn close to perfect.
Yeah, like there's I mean, you can tell when a GameCube controller like is trash, and you can tell when it's good. Dave, tell me if this stick is like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10.
Oh, I mean, that feels aside from some minor scuff marks, it seems borderline perfect new.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, you just spent, 5 seconds and said this GameCube controller is awesome, right?
It feels springy and nice,
Every single controller was like that.
Yeah.
I spent, 40 minutes freezing my fucking ass off waiting for this guy to say the exact same thing.
I wouldn't know what to complain about.
I know. I damn near lost my mind. And then, I did my cardinal sin.
Yeah.
Normally, when I make a sale... get back in my car and I go back home because I don't want to deal with people any more than I have to.
Yeah.
Well, my dumb ass is like, hey, I'm going to go get a hot chocolate because I just sat out here in the cold for a while.
Yeah.
Go in there, grab my chocolate, come back. And of course, it takes me a good 5 to 10 minutes because I was, there's people in there and I was just kind of warming up. The guy's still out there.
Oof.
And he rolls down his window. He's like, hey, can I actually see if another controller is better than the one I picked out? I'm like, dude.
Oh, my God.
I am so done at this point. If you know exactly which one you wanted to pick, go for it. But I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
Finally, he took another, minute and a half where I opened up my trunk for the controllers. And he starts doing his annoying little thing. And I'm like, bro, I got to go.
Yeah.
Pick it or leave it. I don't care. But, oh, my God. Anyway. I just had to get those out of my system. If you're those kind of buyers, please never buy from me. Just stay away. Trust me. I will not be nice.
I what's the subset of people that are very particular or whether it's just personality wise or
I was listening to the CU podcast or whatever the other day, and Ian had a guy he called himself a collectionist.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, it reminded me exactly of that, where I'm just losing my mind over this kid.
And I don't want to rip on people that if someone's on the spectrum or if someone just doesn't deal with people a lot, but I wonder what the overlap is of people that are that particular and people that collect video games.
Yeah.
How close to a circle is that? Because we're all pretty nerdy and weird in our own little ways.
And if I were selling these controllers for some outrageous price, $60 a pop or some shit, fine. I get it, dude. Spend your time. Yeah. These are $25. You can't even find them for sale in town, let alone for that cheap. So I'm just, oh my God.
I can understand being frustrated.
I almost I am not that patient of a person, but this almost set me over the edge.
Yeah.
Anyway, not to turn this into an entire bitch mode podcast, but I did want to tell you, we have a few listeners in Germany, out of all places.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was looking through just the random Spotify statistics on this a few weeks ago, and Germany is our number one hit. So shout out to our people in Germany, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Danke.
Yeah, Danke Shane.
Yeah. my German's pretty terrible for I'm half German, half Norwegian, and so when I was a kid,
nothing.
I took German for a few years. I just didn't stick with it. I mean, how many opportunities do you get to speak German? But
even in Wisconsin, surprisingly, we never speak German.
Yeah.
And you would think watching old school stuff, there's a lot of no, there's no one that's German here anymore.
If I had stuck with it, it might have been neat, but I just I didn't get to go on the Germany trip. That would have been fun, you know.
You guys actually had one?
At our school at some Prairie High,
Okay.
back in around the late 90s. Yeah, they had people that went. All the people I think that went on the trips, those are the people that actually stuck with
Actually
it. That
tried.
actually maintained their language, and I was never great at it.
No,
I do regret that a little. But
I think I took like 2 years of German in high school, and I remember nothing.
Yeah. I think I had a full 4 years, 3 or 4 years of it, and maybe some junior high. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, my German teacher was kind of a whack job, so I
had a pretty good teacher for it. I was pretty lucky there.
like, he was nice, but
Yeah.
just wasn't my thing.
So shout out to our German listeners.
Yeah, shout out to the German folks.
Yeah.
From Deutschland.
Yes.
All right, anyway. Dave, let's talk about our first game.
Yeah.
This is one, obviously we're playing it mainly because the remake came out in November.
Yeah.
I played the remake version. You played the original version for the first time.
First time playing all the way through. Like I've started it multiple times and just never stuck with it over
Really?
the years. Yeah. It just never really grabbed me because again, I saw it as kind of a kiddie RPG, right?
Which it kind of is.
It kind of is, and it's not fair, but that's just how I saw it, and I just got distracted. You know?
I mean, have you ever played like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest?
Yeah, that's how I saw it. I saw it as in that vein.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mystic Quest is a very like
It's not a bad game.
nothing
It's just,
happening.
It's and I'm not like all my RPGs need to be hardcore RPGs, but it just didn't really grab my interest as much.
Yeah, Mario RPG grabbed my interest because it's a little bit more than an RPG. It's also like kind of an action platformer, some puzzle elements, and some other stuff built in. But excuse me.
I will say the first thing that grabbed me right away when I tried to this time around, I tried to put more into it. Try to give it more of a chance. The sound effects and everything are just exactly what you would expect from a Mario game on the Super Nintendo. So no complaints there. The music is great.
I love the music in that game.
Yeah, again, if you're a fan of Mario platformers, which probably most people are, you have nothing really to complain there. There's a few tracks here and there that were straight up ripped from Final Fantasy or maybe remixed from Final Fantasy.
Like the Coolix theme is a straight up. Was that from Final Fantasy 3 or 6 or whatever you want to say?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
There's so you could see that mashup there. I think it fell much more on the Mario side than the Final Fantasy side, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have who made this game? And
it was developed by Square and published by Nintendo.
Yeah, I think they work kind of hand in hand on some of it, obviously, because kind of a conflict of IPs there. But
and again, this is when Square and Nintendo were working really, really close together before Nintendo kind of dropped the ball in the PlayStation era, right?
Yeah, Nintendo wanted to keep those cartridges, damn it.
Yeah. and Square wanted to make games with video and such.
Cinematic masterpieces of RPG goodness. But
yeah,
for every Squaresoft Final Fantasy RPG we got Hybrid Heaven on Nintendo 64. I don't know. Paper Mario, Ogre Battle. I think I've just listed off almost every single RPG in the system. So.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the Quest 64?
Oh, Quest. Oh my God. Yeah. Say what you will about Quest. It's either a love or hate game, but it is not like a good game. I'll just say that. Yeah,
and that kind of fell in that same area too. I felt like that game even had a little more oomph to it, but it still felt a little kiddie for an RPG.
You beat Quest. Actually, did we talk about Quest on here before?
We had, that was one of our four games in an episode.
Okay.
Round table ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Mario 64 or my Super Mario RPG.
The second time you've done that today.
Second time I've done it. The humor and the style to me does feel a little kiddie, maybe a little more unserious is a better word for it.
It is a very comedic game.
Very comedic game. Makes sense given the target audience. I think if anything, they were trending a little younger than most RPGs, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's a good gateway RPG, you could say.
Like I said, I was 10 when this came out, and not only did the box art just capture me for some reason, but I fell in love with this game almost immediately.
It makes sense to me. Again, I was 16, 17, I think, at the time, so it was less engaging for me, I think. As someone, I would tend more towards like hard JRPGs at that time.
Sure, like your Chrono Triggers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the more detail, the better back then.
Yeah.
The Final Fantasies, I would play something like Might and Magic on the NES and not get bored at all. So so it's a little unfair maybe, but that's how I saw it. It does have, I would say, fairly basic equipment and items, but not really out of the realm of other RPGs at the time, you know.
No, like each new area basically has something better to buy.
Yeah, not too involved, but not bad at all, not unrealistic. Personally, one of the things I noticed at first is I didn't really feel a huge need to use a lot of the special attacks and things, except maybe against bosses. Most of the regular fights against creatures, you're just pretty much just steamrolling through without a whole lot of difficulty.
Yeah, so let's break down the combat a little bit. So, it's very basic. You have an attack, a special attack, or a defend. There's pretty much nothing else to do with combat. Yeah, and items, but... Yeah. For the most part, unless you're up against a boss, you don't really use the items that much. No. Barely. Most of the items are not particularly usable, except for like maybe a pick-me-up to revive a character, maybe a mushroom later in the game.
Yeah, there are status effects and curing items for them. You have shared MP between the characters, which is interesting. The flower
you have a shared pool of flower power between all of your characters. So, each one of your special attacks uses like anywhere from like 1 to 8. Flower power. So early in the game, you don't start with that many, but you can get up to 99 towards the end of the game.
There's an interesting thing with the flower power where you get those flowers that not only max your power, but also increase it.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of a weird encouragement to save them until you need to refill, except that you don't really need to use the flower power that much.
Yeah, the game is like not hard enough where you really need to do that, but you can if you want to.
Yeah, you can save to use them. You use your flower attacks more often, and then, you save those flower up items until then.
Yeah, one of the good places to use that is if you're trying to do or get like the attack scar for the super suit, which I don't know if you bothered getting any of those.
Not so much. No, I
would doubt it. But
there's a certain point in the game where I just wanted to finish the game. Like I didn't dislike it at that stage, but I was done. So I didn't feel the need to. I appreciated that they added some things that you could grind for, but I wasn't interested enough at that point.
Did you do any of the super jumps? At least try it a few times.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How many did you get up to? Do you know?
I definitely didn't get up to the, there's that one thing at the end where if you can get 99 or whatever.
So it's 30 and 100.
30
are the two big ones.
I think I did the 30. I definitely did not do the 100.
Did you get the attack scarf with the 30 or no? Because you get that in Monstro Town.
Yeah, I was trying to do the thing in Monstro Town. I definitely didn't do the max one. I might have gotten the basic one for the 30. That sounds familiar. I was trying that out, and I was trying to get the timing down, and so this is part of my problem with it is I'm not really thrilled with the press button at the right time during attack moves.
See, I kind of love that. So there's a thing called time attacks in the game.
Yeah.
And mostly you only see this for like your physical attacks, but each special attack also has a particular timing on it. But if you press like Y or A at the right time during an attack, it'll do more damage or do something else.
Yeah.
As far as like the super jump goes, it's a move that Mario has.
Yeah.
Where you can bounce indefinitely on an enemy.
And I had to look up a guide to realize that. I thought it was just push it at the right time and you do a little more damage. Yeah. I'm like, well, this doesn't really do much.
But the regular jump, yes. The super jump is indefinite.
Yeah, and I don't think the game does a good job of explaining to you that you can keep doing it. And it never organically figured it out. I had to find it in a guide.
There are some things that are like very vague for some reason in Mario RPG.
Yeah.
One of them being like, the super jump or the timing on some other attacks, like you'll never know unless you look it up or figure it out. But
yeah, at a certain point I was like I said, I wasn't my interest wasn't staying at a super high level, so I was just checking in some guides to see if I was missing things or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the guides was like, "Oh yeah, use super jump on this and this." And I'm like, "Why is everyone saying to use the super jump? I don't get it." And then I finally because you're supposed to use a dozen hits or something more on it. Yeah.
Like it is the attack that can do the most damage in the game, but you have to like be a complete weirdo in order to actually master it that well.
Yeah, there's like a certain state, like it gets faster and or it gets the amount of time you have gets tighter and tighter.
Yeah, it's like after jump like 10 and then like 18 and then I think it's like the same through like 18 to like 100, but
yeah, so I practiced it for a while in Monstro Town and I was able to get to where I could consistently do like a dozen or a couple dozen, but just getting much beyond that, it was like I just could not really figure out the timing and I just didn't really care that much.
I think my max is like 59.
Yeah.
And like getting the super suit itself, I mean people grind for hours to get that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, the game is so easy.
I didn't see the point. Yeah.
You literally, it's just like a win more type of item. Like, you don't need it. There's no secret boss. Like, Kulex is the secret boss of the game.
Yeah.
Not even remotely hard enough to, like, wanting to get the super suit for it.
It kind of reminded me of another game I remember playing on the PlayStation, Beyond the Beyond. Which was
I have the case for that, but not the disc.
It's a pretty decent RPG, but it had a thing where you have to press. I think you had to press the X button like really fast during certain things to have a increased effect. I remember wearing off the label on the X button on one of my joysticks back in the day because I was spamming it so much on that game.
Do you ever play Final Fantasy VIII?
No, not really. No, that was not my favorite of the Final Fantasies.
I mean, no one. There's like very few people that really like 8, but it has each time you do a summon in that game, you have to press like X like 200 times in order to get the max damage out of it. Giant pain in the ass.
Yeah, long story short, I never really liked that kind of mechanic.
No, me
in
neither.
RPGs. It doesn't really do. I don't think it's a bad idea. They're trying something different. It just didn't really work for me.
If you watch speedrunners in Mario RPG, I mean, basically they are masters of the super jump. Like, they know exactly how many it takes to kill an enemy.
Yeah.
And they'll do it exactly that perfectly. I couldn't imagine being that good at it, though.
Yeah.
It's too much.
It definitely has a skill ceiling that I can appreciate. It just wasn't fun for me, so I didn't.
And it's completely unnecessary for a casual playthrough.
Yes. The enemies did seem to have some varied stats. There's a little bit of strategy there. Like, you have some enemies with high defense, so you only want to attack them with your best attackers. You know, your middling people are going to do nothing against them. Others might be weaker to magical attacks instead of physical attacks, so that's cool. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. So let's like go back to the beginning of this game, like as far as the story goes.
Yeah.
So essentially, this game kind of starts out as a very typical like Mario saving Peach type of deal in Bowser's castle. And then all of a sudden, during a main fight with Bowser, a gigantic sword crashes into his castle.
A sword with googly eyes.
Yeah, a sword with giant googly eyes crashes into his castle.
Yeah.
Basically destroys the bridge that connects that to the rest of the world, and everyone's just kind of lost and trying to figure out what's going on.
Everyone's kind of booted out, including Bowser, and he's not happy.
Yeah.
And he's constantly in the brink of tears.
Yeah, they really make Bowser like quite a tragic villain. Kind of like how he's played in the movie that was released last year.
And I think that had to have been the first instance,
for sure,
of Bowser being anything other than a mustache twirling, cackling villain, right?
I mean, if you count like the Mario Super Show,
right?
There's bits and pieces of like comedic goof Bowser in there.
Yeah.
And there's like obviously like Lou Albano is a very comedic Mario.
Right.
But I mean, as far as games go, it's the first game where he was kind of a goof.
I did like this version of Bowser. Like, he had that bravado. Like, he'd be willing to do the good thing as long as no one saw him doing it.
Or as long as he got the credit.
As long as he got the credit, as long as everyone is giving him props for it, he's got his image to maintain. Yeah. So that was cute.
He doesn't join Mario joins him.
Yes.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, as long as that's understood, everyone's going to get along well. Yes.
But so it starts off as a very Mario's just rescuing Peach game, but it slowly turns into a there's something called the Smithy Gang, which has slowly corrupted Mario's old creatures and created new creatures of his own. Yeah. I mean, you don't really see Smithy, you don't even barely know about him until like the very end of the game.
Right.
But you face all of his minions throughout the game, and you collect these star pieces.
Yeah.
Now, these star pieces basically happened because that giant sword crashed through Star Road on the way to Bowser's castle.
Right.
Created star pieces. You have to form back together Star Road, defeat Smithy. I mean, that's essentially the story of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Along the path, you meet many new characters that are like brand new to the Mario franchise.
Yep.
One of which being the first character of the game, Mallow.
Yeah.
Who is... I mean, he looks like a little marshmallow man.
He's definitely a frog, though.
Yeah, who thinks he's a frog, straight up, but really he's like a living cloud creature.
Yeah.
And he has very shitty, like, regular attack, kind of shitty base stats all around.
He's a black mage, mostly.
Yeah, he's the VV of the game.
Yeah.
So, he's got cool magic spells, but all in all, like, I don't know about you, but I kind of stopped using him as soon as I could.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I got Bowser, I think I kicked him to the curb mostly. I mean, every now and then some of the guides say, bring in Mallow for these fights because you have a lot of creatures that are weak to spells. So there's certain areas where it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, but he's got lightning spells that are very good early in the game, but kind of fade off. And then he's got a spell called Snowy that's pretty good throughout the game. Yeah. But I mean, Gino, is it Gino or Gino?
I think it's Gino.
Yeah, I always call him Gino for some reason, but
I like Gino as soon as he showed up. Him and Bowser, along with Mario, is pretty good.
Yeah, Gino is an inhabitant of Star Road who basically possesses a doll.
Yes.
And is just trying to do basically your quest, and he ends up joining your party.
He's kind of like the breakout character from this show.
And he's never seen again.
Yeah, and people will never stop complaining that he's not in Smash Bros. And I understand, because like I said, he's
very cool character.
He's a very cool character. I've seen a lot of like fan works and stuff using him, you know, like people have their own little stories, like Terminal Montage, you know, has a little series of shows with him being, you know, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing.
Yeah.
With like him and Rosalina and some other characters.
Sure, all like the secondary characters of the Mario franchise.
That are kind of like protecting the timeline or protecting space-time or something. It's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, he's kind of like the Knight of Star Road. But
yeah.
Like, other than this game, I think all he's done, he might have made an appearance as like a random NPC in one of the later Mario games.
Yeah.
And I think you can get his clothes in like the newest Smash Brothers game for like your Mii character.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But that's like it. Like, otherwise he like never comes back, never makes another appearance. And I don't think Malo does either, as far as I know.
I don't think so. But I don't think he made as much of an impact.
No. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know. He's kind of annoying, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is probably why. But.
He's kind of the little kid brother character.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He just kind of falls on his face quite a bit during this game. But.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gino? Are we saying Gino?
I like Gino, but Gino? I don't think it matters. But
yeah, I'll just call him Gino just so we stay on the same page. But he's got pretty great stats all around.
Yeah,
maybe not the best defense of anything, but
he's got some good boost. He can ramp up other people's attacks nicely.
Yeah, but all the bosses have this thing called Shredder, which essentially negate his boosts.
Right,
which is kind of annoying.
Yeah,
but yeah, he has probably the best special attack out of the game.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're in that Kulix fight or some of those later fights with the Axum Rangers, I really like him for, like, big damage on everything, because he can deal, like, 250 damage to every character on the screen.
Right.
But, I don't know. For some reason, my team was always Mario, Bowser, and Peach.
Yeah, I did Mario, Bowser, and Gino for most of the game. There was a couple brief times where I'd sub in Mello for... I think in place of Gino, just to do some nuking. Yeah. And then there's a certain point in the game, like the last quarter of the game, maybe I switched in Peach for Gino just for that healing.
Yeah.
But most of the time I preferred to have him for a little more damage and a little buffing.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think a lot of people will sub out Bowser for him as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Bowser in the original game is very beefy.
He's so consistently tough and does good damage, and he's got so many cool weapons and stuff.
Yeah. And they always, like, feel good. For some reason, his time attacks always just feel like they got a little bit more crunch to
weight.
them.
Yeah.
Gino. Yeah. I think we'll call him Gino.
Yeah.
Gino's Pizza. But yeah, for some reason, his time attacks always feel kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
And Malo's, who cares?
I never really got the hang of Malo's very much. Same with Peach. I never really played. You barely attack with her, right? You're mostly just healing with her. But did she have one attack that did healing? I forget. I didn't use them a bunch.
No. So as far as her specials go, she's only got one attack that actually deals damage. Right. And that's her like Psych Bomb level 18 one.
Right.
Which is kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it got maybe buffed in the remake, but as far as like an attack goes in the original game,
Yeah.
But. Here's where I'll kind of like go off on a tangent. So like when you level up your characters, you can choose to boost one of the stats of either regular attack and defense, HP, or special attack and defense.
Yeah.
So you can kind of build out the characters the way you want.
Yeah.
So you can build some weird shit. You can build a wizard lizard out of Bowser if you really want to. Make his special attack something like not horrible.
Yeah.
And he's got decent special attacks. Sort of like his Bowser Crusher, his last one's not terrible, but his other ones are kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Gino, you can build him either offensive, like regular attack, or offensive special attack.
Right.
I always like doing a special attack for those later like Kulix boss fights. He can just like straight up smash through it.
So when I did that, I noticed that there's like there's one for each level. There's one of the stats that gets a bigger bonus,
and sometimes it's a troll. So, for example, like
interesting
on Malo,
sometimes
his regular attack one will give you a bigger stat,
right?
why the hell would you ever want to build regular attack on Malo?
Yeah, well, the impression I got, and I may be completely wrong about this, it just seemed like if you focused on one stat, like some of the levels, you were literally getting a +1. It was like almost no difference. And so if you consistently took the bigger bonus and you just have a well-rounded character across the board. And my late game Malo, I mean, he wasn't absolutely terrible with physical attacks even, but again, I consistently took the better bonus for each level. So I didn't focus on a single stat.
That's like the typical way that people would play the game.
Right. That's
like, you can, like, so I've beaten this game I don't know how many times. It's one of my favorite games since I was a kid, so like I've played through it many a times.
Yeah.
My current strategy is always to just go regular attack on Mario.
Sure.
Because his special attacks kind of fall off late game. Like his Ultra Jump sucks a dick.
Yeah.
His Super Jump, like I don't like sitting there for like 100 hours crunching that.
Yeah.
So I always go regular attack because he gets the lazy shell, which is one of the best weapons in the game.
Yeah.
So he deals basically the most damage doing a regular attack.
Makes
Plus
sense.
you get the attack scarf on him via the super jumps.
Right.
Boosts his attack further on beyond anyone else can do.
Sure.
Peach, I always do attack. And the reason behind that is because she gets her own version of lazy shell in the frying pan.
Right. Right.
The frying pan is, I think, tied with the lazy shell for the highest damage in the game. So
I got it. I didn't end up using it much, but
it's one of the highest attack items in the game. I think it's either tied or right below the lazy shell. So if you build her just straight up standard attack, you just pump the hell out of that. She ends up being just as strong as Bowser or Mario in your endgame fights.
Wow.
And on top of that, she can heal.
Right.
So like you can throw the lazy shell armor on her.
Yeah.
And if you pump up her attack, then she can actually still deal some damage while having a lazy shell on.
It was nice having the lazy shell armor on her because then she basically just ignored attacks.
Yeah, she's like a god.
Yeah.
So like if you're kind of like a noob at the Coolix fight, you can throw the lazy shell on her with max attack with the frying pan.
Right.
Not only is she unkillable, but she can actually still dish out some damage.
Yeah.
Once you kill a crystal or two, then you start reviving your other characters.
Right.
And then like Coolix is a joke after that.
Right. Right.
For Gino, you can build him any way you want. Malo, like giving him more physical attack pretty much does absolutely nothing.
I could believe it, yeah.
Because like he's so pitifully weak.
Yeah.
In the remake, they do give him a little bit.
Right.
They give him an extra item at the very end of the game, but like, who cares?
Yeah, you don't bring him for that.
Yeah. So like, that's the way that I usually build my teams.
Yeah.
But you can totally dick around if you want and just build like whatever you want to do. But
yeah.
But let's see what else we want to talk about as far as
the
RPG
platforming
goes.
elements in the game. I thought it was kind of interesting. It wasn't maybe my favorite addition to the game, mostly because everything was kind of at this weird diagonal angle, so some of the running jump mechanics seemed a little off.
Yeah, it's like this weird isometric, like diagonal thing going on, which I will tell you feels way worse in the remake.
Yeah. And it seemed like the timing of it again was a little weird. It seemed like you had to kind of let go of the run a split second before you hit jump, and it just threw me off every time. It just drove me nuts. Again, I'm not a huge Mario platformer fan. Like I liked the first three on the Nintendo, and I liked Mario World and Yoshi's Island just fine, and then I kind of lost interest after that.
Yeah, I mean, after that, aren't there pretty much just Game Boy games? Like,
well, I never got into Mario 64 a huge amount. I never got into the later games in the GameCube, Galaxy and all that stuff.
What I will tell you is like, I didn't like Sunshine at all.
Yes.
I mean, I love Mario 64, but like Mario Galaxy totally just brings me back. Like that game is wonderful if you ever get around to trying it.
Yeah. But anyway, so in this game, it has some platforming elements. I appreciate, again, it's something different, but it's not really my cup of tea. But, there are a few examples. There's a river stage where you're jumping around on barrels for coins.
Yeah, the Midas River.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not like I really cared about collecting coins that much in Mario games. In this game, I felt like it was a little awkward and unnecessary. It was pretty easy to hit a cap of 999, and there's not really enough things to buy for most of the game where you really care that much about collecting coins. Did you ever find the fireworks or know about the fireworks? I'm not sure if I did.
Okay, so the fireworks you can buy in Moleville, they're like 500 a piece.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I bothered much. I know there's some bombs and stuff you could buy, I thought, but
there are bombs. Like, who cares about those? Like, they're pretty worthless.
Yeah.
Like, they're usable against some bosses, like if you're going for a speed run or whatever, but
right.
Essentially you could buy, I think it's up to like 5 of these fireworks, which, that would cost you about 2,500 gold,
right?
Or coins.
Yeah. And
you get a slightly different ending to the game. So, like, once the fireworks go off at the very end parade of the game, instead of a mushroom, it'll be a star.
Sure.
And that's about it. That's like the only reason.
Cute.
Yeah.
I will say I liked the mechanic to where sometimes you could avoid fights by running or jumping around things or by getting a Starman and then killing a bunch of enemies while invincible.
I always like doing that, yeah.
That was fun. I did like that.
Were you able to kill Dodo with the star?
I'm trying
the bird in Mallo's Cloud.
I don't believe so. I remember using the star in a couple places where if you were careful with it, I tried a couple times, you could kill like almost all of these really hard enemies in some of the later stages, so that was fun. I don't think I killed Dodo with it.
Yeah, you can do that if you basically rush through Nimbus Land in that castle when you find the star. You can just barely kill him at the end.
Yeah, I don't believe I did, but that does sound fun. Ultimately, I think a lot of the platforming kind of felt a little mini-gamey, kind of like how Final Fantasy VII, like, it had so many mini-games, so you either like that or you don't. Here it felt like it was kind of the majority of the game instead of just a little diversion. Like, and again, it's a Mario, so being more of a platformer in some ways makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like I guess all the Mario RPG games, like Paper Mario's, do have a lot of elements of platforming in them. So
yeah, I guess to me, if I wanted to play a platformer, I would boot up Mario World 1 or 2. The mix just felt a little off. But again, it's not that it's in any way a bad game, just not really my preference. So
yeah, for me, I kind of love the platforming elements in it.
Yeah.
That for me kind of set it apart, especially as a kid.
Yes.
It's harder to get into your Chrono Triggers and your Final Fantasy Freeze.
Exactly.
But it's so much easier to get into like a Mario game because there is that sense of like, oh, I can just jump around and do Mario shit right now.
Yeah, so I fully understand why they did it. I think it was a great idea. It just didn't hit me.
Starting it when you're like in your 40s, like, I don't know about this.
It didn't hit me at the right time then or now, but so I can appreciate it. It just wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I did like, did you get the, what is it called? The Trooper Pin very late in the game after Monstro Town where you have to do the platforming on top of the turtle shells?
Yeah, I didn't perfectly do that. Okay. I got again, the timing, I just, if I practiced enough, I'm sure I could do it. I just had no interest to get my timing perfect.
That mini game is like engraved into my soul, so I always just try to get like the best score I can when I get in there. But
yeah. It just feels like there's just a lot of little things where it feels like you're obligated to get the timing right to be optimal. Like your characters don't really crit really without those optional button presses. So it's you're almost like putting yourself on hard mode by not getting good at that, and it kind of annoyed me a little. But,
yeah, I will say like all of those are engraved to me as well.
Right.
So like for me, it's very hard to miss those. They just feel like part of the game when I'm playing.
Yeah, I did start to get better at it. If the game grabbed me more, I think I would have tried harder and perfected it better. It was a little hard for me to put that much effort into it for not being really into the game.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from because in the remake that I played recently, they changed all of the timing and all of the timed hits.
Yeah.
Completely messes me up.
Yeah.
Like I was only able to get like maybe 60% of them at any given point. Yeah. Kind of a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But they do a thing where like if you're not getting it after a while, they put like a little exclamation point in front of your head.
Yeah.
That like kind of tells you when to press a button. So
yeah.
Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of kiddie, I guess.
I thought the boss fights seemed fairly easy at first, but maybe a little too long and tedious in some ways.
Okay, which ones did you?
Like the first few even and again, that might have been me not figuring out the timing to get your crits or whatever. So that makes sense. So the fights didn't really feel deadly in any way. They just took longer if you didn't, do what you were supposed to do. And that, again, not a bad thing, just mildly annoying. If you didn't give a Mario an item so he avoided getting turned into a scarecrow and unable to attack during that one fight, then the fight's going to be tedious and take forever,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Not bad at all. Again, if it was a game I was really into and I was really, figuring out all the tricks and min-maxing everything, it wouldn't have been a problem. I just wasn't really.
Yeah. There are certain items like the safety ring you can get kind of like early on that you put on your character that does the healing, and then, you know the fights where you need to bring a Peach and the fights that you don't.
I was never really at risk of losing to a boss, like really ever, even without using a lot of the best items. Like I didn't farm a lot of those damaging all the enemies items.
I mean, most of those didn't really do that much damage anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Some of the guides tell you farm up a bunch of these for this stage or this stage, and it makes this. Yeah, I never felt the need to. I do feel like the game made excellent use overall of the Mario characters. Like it fleshed out some personalities, like we said.
Yep.
It made lots of references, which were cute. Introduced
the Star Road references.
The Star Road stuff was nice, because that was pretty recent too. that was introduced. But again, it did make it a little hard sometimes to justify switching off your ideal team. Once you figured out what you wanted, you would tend to stay with that most of the game. I feel like.
Yeah. There's almost no reason to switch in anyone else. Like Malo, for example, like I basically will never use him after I can switch him out.
Yeah.
Did you get the experience share item?
I did not.
Okay.
No.
So you actually played the game harder, quote unquote harder than usual.
Yeah.
Because if you get 50. If you get 50 frog coins early, I think it is. Maybe it's 35. It's one or the other, but I believe it's in Rose Town. You can find a frog there that you can trade in.
Oh, I did find the guy that sells you stuff for frog coins. Yeah, I don't remember if I got that specific item. I bought a few things. There were some interesting time-saving things that he sold you.
Yeah, the experience share, if you wanted to max out your team earlier, you can buy that, and it just doubles the experience whoever wears it. So.
Right. Yeah, there's some neat things. I don't even remember what they all did, but there's a couple of neat items that minimize some of the hassles in the game. But it was pretty late in the game by the time you got that.
Yeah.
Some of them, at least.
There's I always like the work pants. You can get those in Moleville and basically use them till the very end of the game.
Yeah.
Because they give you a boost to your attack and special attack. So if you just wanted a glass cannon, you could.
Yeah, I think I actually used the work pants. I think I had 2 pairs of work pants that I used on 2 of the characters. I think it was like Mario and...
it's basically Bowser's best armor until the very end of the game.
Yeah, like you could get better defense items, but you didn't really need the defense. So I'd rather have the high offense.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to die in the game.
Yeah.
Did you get the lazy shell?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you followed a guide or whatever. And
I think so. I'm trying to remember for sure. I remember I got the shell, the heavy shell armor for Peach.
Yep.
And I thought I got either the best or the second best weapons for just about everybody. The stuff I specifically didn't get was the stuff like the super suit, the stuff where you had to do some crazy timing challenge.
Like that. Yeah. The super suit is not a normal item to get.
But I remember you did at the end where you had to, depending on which route you took through the final castle, there was, different items. I took the route to try and get the best items. I would save the game and reset until I got the right path to get all the better items.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's basically, you can go through either the fights or the quizzes.
Right.
If you get into one of the quiz doors, you just lose and go back.
Yeah, I did get... I had to do that more than a few times to try and get, the best items and experience, the max for these different characters.
But really only a couple of them are super useful.
Yeah.
Malo, you don't need his last Sonic symbols or whatever they are.
Right.
Bowser, you do want his drill claw.
I did get the fry pan. I didn't really get around to using it because I hadn't really been maxing Peach out for that.
Yeah.
I would, if I played again, I would probably try more with her, if nothing else.
She's pretty broken once you get the frying pan.
Yeah.
It's like an insane weapon.
Yeah. As far as would I play it again, I have to say probably not. Something would have to change to make me enjoy it a lot more. Because, the storyline's pretty sparse. I didn't really love the various mechanics to try and master them. I would... I think I could, and if I did, I would probably enjoy the game more. It's just that weird chicken and the egg. I need to enjoy the game a little more to want to put the effort in to get good to enjoy the game more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of weird.
Yeah, as far as me goes, so this is one of those it's a pure nostalgia game for me.
Yeah.
It's been one of my top 3 forever.
Yeah.
Just basically because I played this as a kid. It really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna go over some of the things that were in the remake that are a little bit different.
Yeah.
So the remake makes this easy game insanely easy. Somehow way easier.
Yeah.
And there's various reasons why.
Yeah.
One, you get unlimited stash space now. So for some reason, even though that wasn't really an issue at all in the first game.
Yeah, I don't remember that being a huge issue.
As long as you sell off your items,
you're
usually pretty good as far as stash space goes.
Yeah.
There's now not a gold cap. so you can just keep getting gold.
Yeah. Okay. So it'd make coins completely pointless then.
Yeah. Coins are like you'll get over 999 like immediately.
Yeah.
It's not even a problem.
Yeah.
Now they made party attacks so that once you get 3 characters, they can all do like one special attack that'll basically do, like 350 damage to everything on the screen. Makes the game almost way too easy.
Yeah.
Because you can just 2-hit a lot of bosses.
Yeah.
They introduced these new enemies. I forgot exactly what they're called, but they're like special enemies that you can run into in the wild.
Yeah.
And when they die, they drop a frog coin.
Oh, okay.
So getting frog coins is like trivial in the brand new remake.
Yeah.
Which means that you can get the experience share almost immediately, like once you get to, is it Rosetown or Seaside?
Yeah.
It might be Seaside. I can't remember which town it is, but you get the experience share right away, which means that you can just start maxing out like one of your characters like way before you're ever supposed to be able to.
I guess at least that would stop you having to look up guides for where to jump to get the just randomly searching for Krog coins in weird places was a little annoying.
For the hidden blocks?
For the hidden blocks and stuff, yeah.
Funny thing is, in the remake, you actually get the signal ring, which tells you there's a hidden block.
Right. That's right.
But you get that in Mushroom Kingdom instead of Nimbus.
I was going to say, I do remember getting that late in the game, I think. I never went around to find the few things I might have been missing.
No, like I still have the original player's guide, so I know where they all are.
Right.
But in the remake, I swear they've either moved them around or they made, like, the jumping mechanics are a little bit different. So your character model's not as thick as it used to be. Which means if I actually hitting those blocks, kind of a giant pain in the ass in my experience.
More specific.
Way more specific.
Yeah.
It's very, the timing has changed completely.
Weird.
Yeah, it kind of trips me out. Now, when party members die in a battle, one of the other fresh party members will come back into their place.
Oh, wow. That makes it way too easy.
Way too easy. So, like Kulix, for example, you don't even need to bother wearing a lazy shell, because if somebody dies, new character just comes in, you just revive the old ones.
Yeah.
Don't like that aspect too much.
Yeah, I mean, unless they cranked up the difficulty to account for it, but
no. No, funny enough, when you start up the game, there's like an easy mode and a normal mode. Can't even fathom what the hell the easy mode is.
Right. Well, that's just walking through the story to do the story. Yeah.
I guess, dude, I have no idea. I can't begin to imagine. I might just try it one day.
I guess for really little kids, maybe that just want to enjoy the story and don't want to have any challenge really at all.
You could be like 7 and probably beat the remake.
Well, yeah.
Pretty easily.
Yeah.
What else did they do? They updated the music tracks. You can choose to play the original music if you want, or you can play the upgraded music.
Sure.
I wouldn't say they went out of their way specifically for any one particular track. They just sound like newer versions of the tracks.
Right.
Yeah. What else did they do? Yeah, there's no hard mode, which is insane. So, literally halfway through the game, Spopovich, which you face, after the pirate ship? The guy that does the big geysers.
I think
his name is Spopovich, isn't it?
That sounds like a DBZ name. So.
Oh shit, that is the name of.
That's what's his name in the Boo saga.
Yeah, Majin Buu's fat muscly guy.
Yeah,
that was his name, Yardovich. Yardovich?
Oh yeah, you mean the pirate guy?
The guy right after the pirate guy. He has the spear, and then he turns into 2 people.
Yeah, I don't remember their character names very well.
Maybe it's Yardovich.
Could be.
Anyway.
Spopovich.
Spopovich. Gohan's going to be pissed.
Yeah.
No, but essentially, once you get to him in the remake, you can basically one-turn any boss.
Wow.
So boss fights are a joke in the remake, which is kind of sad because they were maybe the only slightly difficult part of the original game.
Yeah, it was I think the game to me the boss fights were more interesting later on. The first few boss fights were a little too long and tedious. The later ones were more fun, I thought.
Yeah, especially once you get to Jinx. I really love the Jinx fights.
Yeah,
because that little shit will just go one hitting your characters.
Sure,
and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but yeah, in the remake, you literally kill him in one turn before he can even move.
Yeah, the ranger guy that fight was pretty interesting.
I love the Axon Rangers.
Yeah.
In the remake, you kill them all in one turn.
So lame.
I know.
That was one of the best. That might have been the best fight in the game.
You like the Axon Ranger one?
Yeah, that was a fun because it was the nice variety of different effects, and you had to which one do you want to focus on, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you end up getting the cheese kill on the giant sword?
I don't. Oh yes, I did. I think I did. Yes.
with Gino's move.
Yeah, I think I looked that up. I had to try it a few times because it wasn't easy to do the cheese kill, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then really the last thing. So they do add. I want to say a challenge mode kind of at the end of the new remake.
Mm-hmm.
So once you beat it, it's not a New Game Plus, but Frogfucius
Okay.
will basically tell you that each one of the bosses in the game have like come back and you have to go beat them again.
So it's a boss rush.
It's a boss rush, and they do actually make them challenging.
Okay.
Which is kind of neat. So like each of the bosses have a new gimmick.
Yeah.
They can all like one shot you. Like they're actually challenging boss fights.
I guess that's not bad, but I feel like a new game plus with that built in
would be
better.
so much better.
Yeah.
New Game Plus, a hard mode. Give me something a little bit meatier.
Especially since you already took the effort to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the main point, I guess, of the remake at the very end, there's a new Kulix fight where he's like insanely hard.
Yeah.
And the whole point of that fight revolves around how fast you can beat him.
Okay.
So you kind of get a timing of like, it took you 30 turns to beat me this time.
Got it.
So like, I would like to see what like, a real like pros, like how many turns it actually took. But,
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, that's the remake in a nutshell. It's a little janky because of the controls on the Switch.
Yeah.
And like, I played it with the Joy-Cons, which was a fucking nightmare. I'm not even going to lie. Because my Pro controller was like dead at the time. So I played it with the Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons do not tickle me very much. Like they feel janky when you play on them.
Yeah. I was a little wondering, I ended up playing it on my I was playing it on my Pocket because I don't have the actual cart, and that's one of those that that's one of those that you can't play on the analog NT with the built-in. You have to have one of the special flash carts that can emulate the chips.
I thought they introduced some of that stuff.
Some of that, but not that particular chip. So you either have to have one of the beefier flash carts or play it on a different. Like I said, it works great on the Pocket, and I was using my 8-bit DOE, the ones that kind of like the Pro controller on the Switch. They're pretty nice. So it's possible that was, if on an actual N64 controller, or an actual Super Nintendo controller, it'd be a little better, but whatever.
Yeah. As far as a rating, what do you give it?
So I kind of gave it. It didn't lose a lot of points for me. I said it was kind of a swing and a miss for me on the platforming and timing elements, and I maybe docked it a half point because of what I perceived as the lower difficulty, the maybe more basic storyline, which it's more of a matter of taste. A little. So I give it a 4, which I think it's a solid 4. I probably, for someone that was more nostalgic for it, I could see it easily being a 4 or 5 or more. I don't dislike the game at all. I just think it's not entirely for me.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. For me, I give the original a 5 just because, half of that's nostalgia. Like, I can't get out of that.
Yeah.
But as far as the remake goes, I only give that a 4.
Yeah.
And I know, like, a lot of people are very gung-ho about the remake. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But, like, man, I don't know. Like, the original is just a better game all around. And the remake is, like, so... You have to make that game somehow more challenging for yourself, I think, in order to enjoy it more.
Makes sense.
So whether you just try to speedrun it or never get the experience boost or like somehow handicap yourself.
Yeah.
But even then then you have to not use the 3-party attacks.
Yeah.
You have to somehow not sub in dead characters. Like, I don't know how the hell you'd make the game harder. But
for me, and with RPGs of this kind, I usually prefer the option to crank up the difficulty and then cheese it to account for that. To me, that's more fun. Finding the least sequence breaks, finding the items you can get early to accommodate for the game being really hard. That to me is more fun.
Yeah. So that's sort of give it a 5 and then a 4 for the remake.
I wouldn't argue with it. But
yeah. I would say buy the remake only if you're like a super diehard fan, or if you've never played RPG and you can't find a way to play it. Then sure, the remake is right there for you.
It's not the easiest thing to play if you don't have the card.
Yeah. But again, nowadays, do you want to spend the $60+ for a game that is 12 hours long?
Yeah, and it's not super long.
Yeah, I beat it in 2 sittings.
Yeah.
The remade version with the endgame boss fights.
I think it took me a little longer, but I was taking my time to try and give it a fair shot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's what I would give it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't argue much. That definitely is a bit of a nostalgia hit, and I don't argue with that at all. I could be convinced to give it a 4 or 5, but part of that is because I was playing 2 games here, and spoiler, Earthbound I considered a better game.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is for me, like Mario RPG, like the remake almost put a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Where it's like, man, after I was done with that remake, I'm just like, man, is Mario RPG as good as I thought it was, or does it suck? And then I thought back to like 2 or 3 years ago, I played Mario RPG on stream, and I played it in like 2 sittings as well.
Yeah.
And I loved it. So I think it's just the remake for me just didn't land.
Yeah. And the original didn't super land for me, but I can see, technically, I think it's a great game.
Yeah.
It's just, I think,
especially for the Super Nintendo and those graphics and the soundtrack, like it's all pretty damn good.
Yeah. The stuff I dinged it on was all pretty subjective. So, whatever.
So yeah, we're going to talk about Earthbound in 1 second. All right, do you want to talk, like, intro Earthbound with who made it and blah, 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 and all that stuff?
Yeah, so it was developed by Ape Incorporated and published by HAL Laboratory. So, practically Nintendo first party.
Yeah, one of the finest.
Yeah. It released in North America in June of 1995 and in Japan in August of 94.
That one never came to Europe, did it?
I don't think specifically, no.
Not during its initial release, but it did eventually in like 2013. I think they got it from the Wii Virtual Console.
Yeah, it might be.
Wii U Virtual Console.
I don't always look into exactly how some of these come to Europe, or, do they just... Because I'm trying to think, with the PAL systems there, I don't think they can just import our games and just play them as is.
Well, some of those later titles never went over there. Like Mario RPG, I don't think it went over to Europe either.
Yeah.
Until whenever they re-released it on like the Switch, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. So this game, the soundtrack right away, and I've heard I had the Earthbound soundtrack on my phone already, parts of it at least, and it's very well done, very memorable. Certain specific songs, at least, like
it just sticks in your head for a while.
It sticks in your head. Yeah. Not all the songs obviously are my favorite, but there's not really any uncomfortable sounds like the ones that are intentional. You know, there's certain parts where they're trying to make it
like
creepy.
The sewers are kind of creepy and
But it's very interesting. It's the very unique soundtrack. It's not like any other soundtrack, especially on that system. I feel like
I love the Tucson track. Mm-hmm. That is still my one of my ringtones. I think it's my alarm to this day. Mm-hmm. Just love it. Like I could sit there and just hum that tune for hours.
Yeah, it's all very catchy music. It doesn't get old.
No.
Yeah, nothing on that. The gameplay to me, the overall environment was very quirky at first. Like I said, the soundtrack was kind of whimsical and subtle. It kind of went back and forth between whimsical and subtle, I should say. The menu aesthetics and all were very colorful. You can make it very tie-dye or, bright and neon.
Yeah, you can pick the colors of your windows and...
the naming process involved like selecting some of your favorite things and stuff like that. It was kind of cute. Again, it felt a little kiddie, but it didn't. I guess it felt a little more. It hit a little better. Like it was more subtle or more.
It's very quirky. Like the humor is a little bit more advanced than like a 5-year-old would understand.
Yeah, like I guess what I would say is it's meant to look like a kiddie game, but not made like one, right? It's kind of like the difference between something like the Goonies maybe versus like a Stranger Things or something, like it's
And I did see like on the Wikipedia page, Iwata, who is like one of the main developers of this game, who also ended up being Nintendo president for like a decade. Said that he wanted to program this game and make this game to like have a sense of loneliness sometimes for the player playing it. Yeah,
I believe it. It feels. I mean, it's one of those games that you have like cartoons that are for kids, but they have a lot of jokes for the parents.
Right, and that's what Earthbound is. Totally.
Yeah, it's meant. You're a group of kids, out to save the world, but it's a very adult game at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of adult themes in there. Yeah. There's a lot of things that like. Oh boy, like once you go back and visit it later, it's like, man, this is like kind of dark.
Yeah. The menus and gameplay was all pretty familiar JRPG stuff, I thought, but the environment was a lot more like real life looking, like it was, you weren't in a fantasy world.
Yeah, you go to town, you go to the drugstore, you basically go to Walgreens, you buy your drugs or baseball bats.
Right, and it's all like, I forget if it's like a 80s general setting or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like no, it's 1990X.
Is it 90? Okay, I was trying to remember when exactly it was set, but it was that kind of aesthetic from like our childhood.
Yeah,
kinda.
you get a bike, you ride a bus, you do all sorts of normal kid stuff.
Yeah. Everything's at a kind of a little weird tilted angle, which is kind of, it's I guess it's probably kind of similar in some ways to Mario RPG, but I think it maybe fits better.
Yeah,
it's a little, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what to call that style.
It's kind of a weird isometric angle, but it's such a quirky, weird game that it just fits better.
And sometimes you can get kind of stuck on some of the background like trees and shit, but
well, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's similar to what annoys me about Mario RPG, but it just doesn't as much here. Maybe it's just a little more polished in places.
I mean, the jumping elements aren't there. You're not trying to like do any platforming.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's some times where you're like trying to avoid, bumping into things and bumping into
sneaking past enemies and that kind of thing. Sure,
a little bit. It does some strange things here and there. Like there's cases where you need to like not hit buttons at certain times, or like you just need to set the controller down and not touch it because something is going to happen if you're getting bored and hit a button.
I mean, they literally tell you that.
Yeah, so. It does.
The game actually never lies to you.
No. There's stuff where times where the game acts like it's bugging out, where you're like, is my system on the fritz? It's one of those games where you have really limited inventory.
Each character has a set amount of slots.
Yeah, but it does get a little better as you get more characters. You start out. You don't have much space, and you get a few more characters, and you can kind of shift things around, and then you can send stuff through the phone to
his sister. Actually,
his sister. Yes, his sister is the bank. Although even at the end of the game, there's certain points in the game where I was like, I'm still like about halfway through the game, I'm starting to I just have to dump all this stuff because I'm never going to use it.
Right, like the weapons you never need. Like, you just sell off all the extra junk you no longer need.
Yeah, there was certain things early on that I was like, okay, maybe I'll use this later, and then a certain point in the game, and then it was a little tedious unless you go home and talk to her directly, because you have to spend money on your calls, and you have to call somebody to come and pick up items, or to take or to give items to you, and you can only do so many at a time. So that was a little fussy, but it was cute. It didn't. I don't recommend storing anything that you just think you might use it, or just use it or sell it. Just don't.
Well, I mean, there's some stuff like the pencil eraser, which you'll use like 2 times throughout the entire game that you can store away. And the eraser. I love that item, by the way.
Yeah, that was cute. It did annoy me a little that there are items in the game that you use like once or twice in the game, and then you can't get rid of them. They just have to take up space in your bank. So at the end of the game, you end up with a dozen or so space in your bank taken up by things that have no use, and you can't get rid of them.
Yeah,
that was a little annoying, but whatever. So I have a problem in a lot of these games where I save consumables and then never use them.
That's a huge item in Earthbound.
Yeah,
and what's funny is did you get irrationally pissed off when you got to the desert and in the monkey cave? And then you realize that you didn't have like one of the foods to get past the monkeys. I
ended up just looking up a guide for that because I just couldn't even. I was so full on space at that point that I just couldn't easily shuffle things around. I'm just going to look up a guide, bring all exactly the right things, and just do it. And fine.
How many times did you keep a skip sandwich in your inventory and never use it?
Yeah, so many times. There's so many. I mean, I'm bad about this anyway in game. Yeah. I'm so bad about using consumables because it's like if I use it now, I won't have it later, and maybe it's more important later than now. It's
then you realize like half the items in Earthbound are just like pointless. They're literally just to troll you, like the ruler, for example.
Oh yeah, a lot of that stuff is just silly.
Like, what the fuck is the point of this?
I did like there are a lot of items like the bottle rockets and the bombs and stuff that are actually way better than you would think. Yeah. And there's like certain parts of the game where the guys literally tell you just bring so many of these, and it's not even a thing.
Like, as soon as I get Jeff and you can start buying the bottle rockets, I just like fill his inventory full of bottle rockets.
Yeah. And that's kind of interesting because, most of the characters have psi powers or whatever. His power is basically just, he invents things and he can just blow stuff up with items, basically.
Yeah, he's the bottle rocket guy.
Yeah, basically.
Funny enough.
Designated bottle rocket guy. Yeah. Yep.
So what did you think about the story of the game? Like, did you, because it starts out very strange.
Yes. That was one of my next points. Is it starts off with a dangerous, possibly dangerous explosion or crash or something, and Ness's mom starts off the first thing saying, "I'm not even going to stop you from going out to investigate because I know it's not going to work." So that was cute.
As long as you go and change out of your pajamas, she's all right with it.
Yes. So it's like immediately everyone's like, "Yeah, we get it. You're the destined hero who's going to save the world. Go on, have fun."
Yeah, you get your buddies, you get your dog, you get a baseball bat, and you're off to like save the world essentially.
Yeah, it's very cute. It's there's so many like I said, the Goonies, things like there's so many stories from back in the movies Goonies. And things from back in the day, and it's that kind of feeling, and it doesn't take itself seriously, and the humor varies between kids humor or pretending to be kids humor but having subtle adult jokes in it here and there.
Now, did you know that Buzz was going to die in the first like 10 minutes of the game?
Shoot, I'm trying to remember now. My brain.
So remember, you find the meteorite, and then this bee comes out of it.
That's right.
This bee named Buzz from the future, who's like a warrior trying to stop Gigas.
No, I didn't see that. So at first, there's a trope in RPGs, right, where you have that overpowered character who shepherds you through the early. I didn't, I'm used to that being a character that you don't keep long. I wasn't expecting him to get immediately wiped out. I
wiped out by a random NPC's mom.
Yes, that was pretty special.
It's like, oh shit, there's a bee here, smacks it, and then he dies.
I mean, that's a normal trope in these games, but the way they handled it was so cute. Yeah, normally the character would be sidelined in some other way, like they get sick or something. But just swat it. Yeah, that was great.
One of my favorite little things too is when he's giving his death speech.
Yeah.
If you accidentally pick, do you want to hear it again? Then he'll just keep telling you this story, and he'll just keep going like, okay, I'm almost dead, but you want to hear it again?
Yeah, I bet.
Holy shit.
Yes, the humor is on point.
Yeah.
I will say that. It's that stage where I could see kids enjoying it and not reading too much into it, and I could see adults reading into it and being like, oh.
Yeah, so like the story, like they never really tell you essentially like what the full story is. So there's like this meteorite that crashes into Eagletown or Onet or one or the other.
Yeah.
But it brings with it this alien Gigas.
Yes.
Which is like this intergalactic, just menacing evil thing. Like they don't really ever say what he is. You never really figure out exactly what he is either. He's like the embodiment of evil.
Yeah.
And he just starts corrupting like the entire world.
Yeah, and he sends these statues around that people that interact with or keep the statues get corrupted more directly.
Yeah, they turn into cultists.
And your one friend / enemy, which I guess early on in the game you can decide is he your friend or not. The fat kid.
Yeah, Pokey the fat kid.
And he at the end he's your big arch nemesis, and he actually. Spoilers. He doesn't. You don't really. I mean, you beat him, but you don't really defeat him. Like he's still like, I'm gonna get you later, Ness.
Guess what game that goes into?
Yeah, I figured he is probably a sequel character at that point.
He's literally like the end boss of Mother 3.
I believe. Well,
not really, but he's in Mother 3.
Right. But that fits, and it's literally the whole game. He's that character that you're actually helping him periodically throughout the game, but he sees you as his rival, his nemesis that he must defeat, and you're just like.
Well, at first he's like barely your friend. He's like this fat next door neighbor kid who like hates you. He always makes fun of you because you're poor.
Yeah, he literally he hates you, and you have the option to either. I think to say he's my friend, he's my asshole, he's my Cartman, basically.
Yeah, he is Cartman. He's literally Cartman. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he's my friend Cartman, or he's this asshole that I hate, I guess, is your options. But.
And then all he does is just troll the shit out of you throughout the entire game.
The entire game, yeah. Even his parents like are
his parents are like horrible
almost
people.
Trolling, not even trolling, they're almost like trying to ruin your parents' lives.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, they're trying to like throw you further in debt. Yeah. Then as the game goes on, they get rich and richer rich. Like,
yes.
You find them in Forsyth, and they have like this condo on the top of this like skyscraper. You're like, holy shit, like what happened here?
I do find it kind of cute how the towns all have that. This is the first town.
One,
this is the second
two,
town.
three.
This is third town.
Now it stops around. What's after?
It's Tucson, 3.
I wanted to say foursome, but that's not right, is it?
I think there is a 4.
Is it
there's at least a 4. I can't remember.
That sounds wrong.
Yes. No, they stuck with it to at least the 4th or 5th town. I forget, but yeah.
Have you ever seen the strategy guide for this game?
I'm aware of it. I remember that's one of those big things that if you kept that, it was worth a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, the game in general is worth a shit ton of money, and the box is worth a shit ton, but the guide's worth like a couple $100.
Yeah.
But the guide, the reason why I bring it up is the guide actually looks and reads like a travel guide.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, welcome to ONET. Here's the things you can do in it. And it's a pretty like nicely laid out guide.
I believe it. This game just screams just that level of polish and detail.
Yeah, it's almost like a troll effort.
Yeah. I do like how useless the police are consistently portrayed as. That's very cute.
Well, not only are they useless, but they're like actively trying to just beat your brains in.
Oh yeah. You literally early on the game have to like just straight up fight all like the one sergeant or whatever. The cops is like,
I
okay,
forget what his name is.
Yeah, I can't remember either. And he's literally like, okay, well, if you can beat me and all my men, then I guess we'll leave you alone, basically.
And they're basically pissed off because you beat the shit out of a local gang that they couldn't touch.
Yeah, you showed them up, so they're gonna make a lesson.
So they like want to smack around this 9-year-old child.
Yeah, it's kind of grim. I mean, there's a lot of points in the game where there's like you have clear references to death or mild horror elements or extreme horror elements, like Pooh's training. My God,
Pooh's training that tripped me out, dude. As a kid,
yes,
I'm like, I have to stop. Like Pooh's dying, I have to stop his training.
Yes.
And then like I had to do that like 4 times till I realized like, all right, I'm putting the controller away. I'm just gonna let it go.
And it's not just like he's taking damage. It's like no, you're like he's like losing his arms and legs and his ability
losing his
to see
eyeballs, his ears. Like
it's like straight up torture. It's like wow, that's got to be one of the most extreme depictions of something like that, especially in an SNES game.
Yeah, like not even Final Fantasy 3 ever goes that deep.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I mean, I guess Kefka does poison an entire land,
but again, it's much more. It's not
a little,
It's not so direct and personal.
Yeah.
Generally, it's much more. I'm a mustache twirling villain. Ha ha. It's not detailing how he's torturing your puppy to death or whatever the heck.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many little things I love about Earthbound. And, one of the main things I like is it takes a long time before you get really your second character of the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a good few hours into the game where you're just kind of running around as Ness. You get a bike and you're just kind of doing Ness things and going from place to place. And it's super grindy starting out, which a lot of people, I know back in the day, a lot of people were just turned off. Because, like, the first gang that you beat in the arcade, like, you have to grind like a few levels in order to actually get through there and beat the Frankie, which is his name.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So the funny thing about that to me is, and again, I'm going into this, I expected this to be a kiddie game that I might not gel with, kind of like with Mario RPG. This game, I just started playing it the normal way I would play JRPGs. I didn't need to grind because I just normally do that.
Exactly.
I don't need to be told to do that. That's just
like you walked into the drugstore and you saw that copper bracelet. It was like $189.
Yeah.
You're like, all right,
I gotta grind and buy that.
Grinding to that.
Yep.
Did you find Mr. Baseball Cap early on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a very easy to miss early item. That's like one of Ness's best defensive items for a while.
Right. Yeah. So I was fully on board with this game. I did not need to be told to grind. I didn't really need to stop and grind very much because I was just doing it naturally.
Did you always grind when you saw the atomic ants or those slugs? Did you grind on those?
So there's a couple points. I'll have to get to this later in the game, but there's a couple points where there's certain items where the guides kind of tell you that later in the game. I started looking up a few guides just to see, because there's so many things you can miss.
Yeah, there's a shit ton you can miss.
At a certain point in the game, I would stop and see, did I miss something? Okay, I'm going to go back and redo it again and get that thing I missed. And so there's certain things where you just have to, that you can drop, they drop from enemies, or you kind of steal them using,
I mean, it doesn't matter. What was it? Jeff can
steal, yeah.
Like, stealing and killing the enemy, there's no difference.
Right, but I would do both, right? I would kill the enemies, but I would also try a stealing mechanic just in case. Like, you have to make sure he has a space open, and you have to use that one move of his. And so I literally drastically over leveled trying to get some of the best items in the game for some of these characters. And I think at one point I just ended up going back to before I did all the grinding because it was going to ruin the game.
Yeah, I've done that before. So
yeah,
here's the few that I know. The Sword of Kings. Did you get it?
Yes, I did not. I spent way too long.
Okay.
And I did not get it.
I have gotten to level 90 something grinding for that before.
I believe it. I had to stop myself.
And that's what, maybe 2/3 of the way through the game?
Yes. And what annoyed me about it is that it's like Pooh doesn't get really hardly any weapons. He doesn't really need them, but he doesn't really...
He's only got 4 items in the entire game,
Yes.
and you either have to find them, but the Sword of Kings is missable.
Right.
So you can
Yes.
only find it from one enemy of the game. It's
Yes.
Super Starman.
Yes.
And once you beat the boss that he's
Then
a
you
part
can't.
of,
Yeah.
he's gone for the rest of
And
the
so
game.
early on, I was like, okay, I'm going to buckle down. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm used to grinding for rare things, so I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to get this. And I spent like a couple of days just in my afternoons were spending doing that. And then finally I was like, there's something's got to be wrong. And I looked, I'm like, oh, well, people are saying this is only 30 AP. Like, don't even bother. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's literally like useless.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It'll make him do like 10 extra damage throughout the entire game.
And it hurt my brain because, I mean, I get it, he's a monk or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but it hurt my brain because normally, like, if any of the items I was going to focus on, it was going to be the weapon.
Right.
Because that's normally what
it makes his equip thing blank if you don't
Yes.
get it, and it will drive you nuts.
It did drive me nuts.
Yeah.
I spent way too much time, and then I completely threw all those hours out because it was going to ruin the game.
Yeah, it makes the game way too easy from
Yes.
that point on. Like,
Yes.
you just start one-shotting bosses. It's like, fuck, what did I do?
So I did. So I reverted.
Okay.
Let's see, what else?
Like Jeff's endgame weapon, I think, is another. It's like a broken something item drop.
I think I got all his best. I got most of the characters' best stuff.
Because he has something called like the broken radar or something, which like.
Yeah. I think I fixed all his broken items, or most of them.
And the one I know you didn't get was the Gutsy Bat.
The what now?
The Gutsy Bat?
I don't think so.
Okay, that is a drop only from, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, whoever's listening to this, but it's only supposed to drop from the Kraken.
Yeah, I
you
don't
only
believe I got
face
that.
4 of them throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I don't believe I got that one.
It might also drop from the like Krakens that you can face at the very end screen of the game.
Yeah.
Like right before you face Gigas, there's like those Krakens in there.
Right.
I think the Gutsy Bat can drop from one of those.
Yeah, I don't think I got that.
What it does is not Ness's strongest weapon, but it also raises his gut stat
That's right.
by 100.
That's right. I do remember reading about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I didn't get that.
So it'll make him auto crit,
yeah.
but like again, it's so late into the game, it's
Yes.
absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah.
All these items have a 1 in 256 chance of dropping.
Right.
So like, holy shit, the time that goes into it. Doesn't sound like it's much.
No.
But it is. Like hours upon hours of grinding.
Yeah. I thought at first I was like, I got to be doing something wrong. I watched videos of people doing it. I'm like, no, I'm doing the right thing. It's just not dropping.
Yep.
And it got to a point in the grinding where like it's not like you can completely ignore those enemies because they have some static, like you had the blow up characters that can damage your guys and stuff. So you couldn't just completely turn your brain off and do it, which is a little annoying. But they were getting easy enough that it wasn't really hard. It was just tedious.
Yeah, like you could end up like one turning them, but like,
right.
Still, just to have an item that raises your attack by 30, which in the grand scheme of things is jack shit.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
I figured you would have gotten some of those, but like, yeah, the time that goes into them is utterly insane.
I put effort in. I definitely put effort in, and then I had to tell myself, okay, this is too much.
Yeah, the last time I streamed Earthbound, I definitely skipped every single one of those items.
Yeah.
Because I've done run-throughs where I've gotten all of them.
Yeah.
Except for the Gutsy Bat, because like, you'd have to be utterly insane, but...
And there wasn't really that many places where I really would have needed any of that. I mean...
No. Yeah. I mean, the Star Pendant's nice. Yeah. That one you get like in the volcano, I think in the underground area, whatever that place is called.
Yeah.
But there's only like one little molten enemy that drops it.
Right.
And again, like...
Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah. I will say, just going back to the combat and stuff in general, I thought it seemed fairly standard to me at first, aside from all the psychedelic colors and the odd enemies and the randomly acting NPCs that just kind of accompany you, like your dog and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of the effects were very different from your usual, poison, paralysis, etc. You'd have catching a cold instead. And I liked the scrolling hit point meter. That was one of my favorite things about the game.
It grows on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, where you take a mortal blow and instead of instantly killing you, the scrolling wheel hit point meter starts scrolling down, but you can interrupt it. If you heal the person before they die, it stops the thing from spinning.
Or if you just finish the battle.
The fight. Yes. Yeah. Exactly, which was great. I thought that was amazing.
Now, apparently that goes slower and faster based on your gut stat.
Interesting. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Apparently, like that's, something that's in the manual, I believe. But
But yeah, it definitely added some. It made the fights more interesting. You know, there were fights where you wouldn't even bother healing someone, but as long as you gave yourself enough time to get the heal off before they died, you didn't necessarily have to heal them before the fight, before a hit, which is what you normally do in these games.
Yeah, there's certain enemies like the trees where once you beat them, they burst into flames and like basically one hit like 3 of your characters,
right? Until
you just start mashing the shit out of A and ending the fight.
To end the fight, yes, exactly.
And then there's some robots that do that later on.
Yeah, like in the Starman area, there was a robot there that blows up.
There's only a few enemies that have like a certain death stare or something that can just instantly KO your allies, but those are few and far between.
Yeah, the healing is the same way, but in reverse. If you heal some of the heals, I think they count up.
Yeah.
So you have to wait to use your next attack until it finishes counting up. Otherwise, you might not get the whole heal if an enemy hits you.
Yeah.
Which is neat. It doesn't seem to have a lot of the usual RPG mechanic of enemies like focusing on PCs in the front, so because there's not like a put one character in the front. They just kind of attack whoever. So Paula would always have a much lower hit point total than the rest, for example, but you can't really do anything about it. Yeah, of course. The typical trope, but you can't really do anything about that other than just heal her.
Now you can have a teddy bear.
Right.
Will soak up some damage.
And I did start using teddy bears. Yeah. I didn't think I would bother at first, but later on I started actually abusing them a little.
Yeah, they're more helpful than you'd think, especially against like bosses that are a little bit above your level.
Yeah.
Like, there's a really early fight where it's just Ness and Paula, and you face that giant rat.
Yeah.
And, like, she can get straight up one-shot by that rat, but Ness can, like, 3-shot it.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is keep Paula alive for that fight, because if you beat him with Paula alive, she gains, like, 13 levels.
Right. And other things I liked about that is... if the teddy bear takes a hit, like if it's an enemy that does status effects and stuff, it'll hit the teddy bear instead. Whether it kills the teddy bear or not, your character won't get that status effect.
Right, super helpful.
So there's some dungeons where there's just all these enemies that do all these, putting you to sleep or giving you a cold or whatever, and you just bring enough teddy bears in that you can get through that area without having to use a ton of recovery items and stuff. Which is kind of neat.
Like, for a while in this game, money's actually pretty tight.
Yeah, it was an interesting twist how they did the money. You don't get currency during the fights, but you get allowance from your dad based on how many enemies you beat up, how
many steps you take.
Or how many steps you take. Yeah. There's certain things, and you have to call your dad on the phone.
He's a deadbeat.
Right.
He's a deadbeat.
Well, I mean, but he's always at work, right?
I don't know where the hell he is.
I thought he was supposed to be always at work. I thought he was supposed to be an overworking Japanese salaryman or whatever kind of.
Yeah, I can't tell if he's like a divorced single dad who's just a deadbeat, or if he's just...
I thought he was
not at home.
I thought he was a workaholic, but I could be wrong.
I don't know if they ever specifically say in the game.
I guess it's open to interpretation. But yeah, you call him, he gives you your allowance, which you can grab from an ATM. Like what he applies it to your account basically when you save, and then later when you go to the ATM, you can take the money out.
But that's how you always get money, is you just go to the ATM.
Yeah, early on,
which is cool. It's a good interesting little swing on it.
Early on, there were definitely stages where I would need to grind a little for money, but after a certain point, it was almost completely meaningless.
Well, then it comes back. Like, once you get to, like, summer or something, items get really expensive again, so...
There was a couple points, like, there was that one town where everything was super expensive. There was some guides saying, don't buy it here, buy it later, and I'm like, I have so much money, I don't care, I'm just gonna buy it now.
Whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Or there's parts that troll you, like, when you first get Jeff for the first time, and you're just controlling Jeff, and you're in Winters.
Yes.
When you stop at the drugstore there, and there's, like, a bat or something that's, like, $48,000.
Right.
They're like, you want to buy it, but you know it's actually impossible.
Right. Yeah, so there's neat stuff. You don't lose money when your party gets wiped out, so there's no reason not to carry all your money at all times. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of games you have to bank your money so you don't accidentally. Here, you might as well just take it all out of the ATM, because why not? Yeah, like I said, you can overspend on consumables. The teddy bears, the rockets, and things like that. It doesn't really matter. It's just how much easier do you want to make the game?
Yeah.
There's certain enemies early on that would confuse me at first. They start out being the snakes, and then you'd see some other enemies where they seem to be just worth free XP without a fight, unless they hit you from behind. Like, if you walk up in front of them and hit it, they just instantly die.
Yeah.
But if you're not paying attention, if you turn around, they hit you from behind, then it's an actual fight.
Like those moles?
Yeah.
You always find,
it was confusing at first, but then I liked it because it was an interesting mechanic, and you could also do it by over leveling. If you over level too much in some areas, and as long as you're facing things, you can beat things without a fight, and you can get items. I think that way too. Like if you're trying to grind the Starmen or things like that, you can
but you can't do it with the Starmen.
Not them specifically, but certain things like that. I think you can kill them that way and still get items from them.
I like doing that after like a boss fight. If you go back into the area, then all the enemies are like scared of you, so you can just kind of grind another level or two.
Right.
But it can take a while, so like it's really depending on what you want to use your time for. But
yeah, so it's interesting. It's an interesting way the game introduces that mechanic. But it introduces it with the snakes, which are super low impact, and then you figure out, okay, this is important for later.
But yeah, the ones that get into the ants, which give you a little bit more of those little like blob things. I don't know what the hell they're called, but
yes, I like having the ability to sometimes dodge or ambush enemies or scare off the weaker ones. I like how you can find butterflies, which heal your PP.
The magic butterflies. There's various rooms where basically like they're grinding areas specifically.
Right.
So they'll have like one of those butterflies in a room. You can go and heal all of your entire party, and then go grind some more and come back.
Yep. There's I like places where you have things like poison or mushroom or whatever that basically force you to leave if you're not prepared.
Yeah.
Like you could just be completely dead in the water with a bunch of mushroom people, and like, okay, I gotta leave and come back.
How'd you like the mushrooms screwing with your controls?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, technically you could keep going, but my God,
yeah, it's super annoying.
Yeah. But in a good way, like there's a level of frustration where it just makes you want to come back and do better versus just turning you off. And I think they usually struck the right balance.
And the consequence of having a mushroom wasn't so bad because you can go to the hospital and they'll actually pay you.
They'll actually pay you for the mushroom. Yeah. So that was
it's interesting.
That was really wild. As far as so this was one of those RPGs where you have overworld visible random encounters. You could see the creatures, you could potentially dodge them and stuff. You could sometimes move back and forth to make things disappear off the screen, or you could use speed increasing items to run past and avoid them sometimes.
Skip sandwiches, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I barely use them, but I could see how it could be useful.
I would save them. I started just to basically grind through those when I could, just to like. For example, on the way to Paula, there's that really difficult area, like right after you use the pencil eraser, where it's full of like UFOs and those burning trees, and it's just like, oh my God, like each enemy here is a gigantic pain in the ass.
Right. Yeah, I probably should have used them more, but I just ended up.
Well, your first time playing, you just think like, oh, skip sandwich, like, oh, it gives 7 HP. Why the hell do I ever use it?
Right. I figured it out, but by the time I figured it out, I'm just so used to grinding through all this stuff. I'm just going to destroy it and move on.
Yeah.
But so you only have a single weapon type for each PC, which immediately made me think, well, this isn't going to have many items. This is going to be pretty limited. But then I figured out that you actually have a dozen or so items per character, so it's a little more like Final Fantasy VII or something. Plus, you have a few generic weapons with really bad miss rates, like the slingshots and stuff that anybody can use. I'm not sure why you would ever
skip
use them.
Those. Well, they're like technically better, like they're higher attack, but like and also I think it's the Casey bat. It's like Ness's highest damage weapon, but it's like a 50% miss, so like you would never use it.
You would never use it, yeah. Although apparently there's the use for that is it cranks up your attack power, so you're more likely to make certain enemies flee from you. So there's certain places like when you're grinding those Starmen, when you equip him with a Casey bat, and it makes it a little easier to instant kill some of the weaker enemies in that area, so you don't have to fight. So like it like scares away the ones you don't want to kill, and you can just auto kill them, and then you fight the ones you do want to kill.
Okay.
So, whatever. It has a huge variety of defensive items that anyone can use, a huge amount of various other misc items. Yeah, initially I thought it was going to be one of those RPGs without a lot of stuff. No, not even
there's
close.
Way more shit than you
so much stuff.
Did you ever use like a rock candy glitch?
I didn't use the glitch, but can you just use it over and over and over again or whatever?
It's like almost the only reason for that one NPCs that sells toppings.
That's right. Yeah. So you put sugar on there, right?
I think it's sugar.
Yeah, it's sugar. Yeah, you put sugar. I don't think that's a glitch. I think that's intended.
Well, right, but it's like one of those things where you never know until you just randomly do it. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, it does tell you about the condiments. I never saw the point of the condiments because you have too little space.
That's essentially the only point of it. Is just to troll rock candies.
Yeah. So it made sense. Yeah. I wouldn't have thought, unless I looked at a guide, to put sugar on rock candy, but what else? I did think the dungeons and the overworld areas could be pretty huge and branching, maybe a little too much, but not, I mean, there's other RPGs like that, and it's, you make maps, you figure it out. I don't dislike that.
Yeah, for me, I think that it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I love walking around Fourside.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this gigantic city. But, like, each thing you walk into, like, there's a new little side quest or something that you need to do. Like, I don't know. It's very neat to me to see this.
Yeah, I don't mind a game where, like, the towns are that big, and as long as there's interesting stuff, it's not just a bunch of empty buildings. And there is not. Like, everything in that game pretty much has stuff in it.
Yeah, or at least, like, an NPC that, like, will give you a joke.
Right.
Like, something weird.
Exactly. So, and yeah, the dungeons, a lot of the dungeons were a little bigger and more, easy to get lost in and, get into unnecessary areas, but that doesn't bother me. That's fine.
And usually, like, the longer path had, like, a very good item at the end of it, so, like, it's very worth exploring these different paths.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I will say, doing it without a guide, I could see people getting frustrated because you could miss a lot. But, it's not a bad thing.
You can, unless you're, like, a very, like, diligent explorer.
Yeah, for sure. Some of them, it seems like you can either choose to go and find all the items first, which might help with the boss, or you can go straight to the boss and beat him, and then you can go find the items without being bothered by enemies.
You could. So I don't think I've ever actually tried that before.
A lot of most or all the dungeons, it seems like that's how it works. Like, you beat the boss, and then it pacifies all the enemies.
Yeah.
And then you can go and just get the stuff, whatever. No problem.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually tried that strat.
I tried it once or twice, and it actually worked. Some of the bosses, the boss was almost less of a hassle than the enemies.
Yeah,
so just make a beeline straight for the boss, beat them up, and then get all the stuff. Unless you need the XP again, which at a certain point in the game, I absolutely did not. The first boss, Frank was the first boss. I thought he was like super easy. I might have been a little over leveled,
probably over-leveled.
Or possibly ridiculously hard if he doubles up on his one really nasty attack that he has, which I think you were saying, like, he can one shot, people no problem.
Well, yeah, if you don't go into there, like, higher level than what you think, you either just barely beat him, or, like, you get wiped out. There's, like, no in between.
So that was interesting. The second boss, I think the Titanic Ant, I thought was another huge roadblock if you hadn't already grinded like 3 to 5 levels in the preceding area.
Oh, for sure.
Instead of like avoiding enemies and dodging through. That's another one of those, which I appreciate when RPGs have these bosses that are huge roadblocks, like, hey, you're not grinding enough.
Early in the game is basically telling you, like, bitch, get on my level.
Yeah.
Which does not mess around at all.
Yeah, and that doesn't bother me. To me, that's good game design. Like, I'm used to that. I mean, for that style of game, whether you enjoy JRPGs or not, But I think later bosses tend to be more like the Frank mold. Most in some cases you'd have it split them to multiple encounters. Sometimes the dungeon itself was more of a concern than the boss, like I said. So if you can skip straight to the boss, great. But rarely, I think most of them weren't quite as difficult as a few of those early bosses. Once you got your guys geared up, until you got to Nessa's Nightmare, I think was the next big wake up boss for me.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, most of the bosses, as long as you pay a little bit of attention to their buffs and debuffs and protect your vulnerable members, no big deal. Or, make sure to heal them and stuff. But then, Nessa's Nightmare was a big deal.
See, I think for Nessa's Nightmare, usually I save those, like, bags of Dragonite.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry, do you get your items in the Dream World or no? Or do you have to get
that was the one that you were with just Ness and you were fighting like the nightmare. I'm trying to remember exactly what the boss was.
I forgot if you get to keep your items before you get there or not.
I thought you did, and the guides would usually tell you load Ness up with these things, so it's not a complete nightmare.
I couldn't remember if I did or not. I just always remember, like, because you can get the Birdmen in your Nightmare World.
Yeah.
They're like your little companion that'll come along and help you.
Yes,
like,
I do remember that.
They always die.
Yeah, they didn't seem super useful.
Every time they die, they leave a little headstone where you get the last one.
Right.
So like you can actually kill them all.
Right.
You have this little like Birdman graveyard in your Nightmare World.
Yeah, that was a pretty trippy, wild level. But again, I really enjoyed the super hard.
I love that.
The super hard fight. It was great. I loved it.
Because like I don't even know. I kind of forgot the whole reason of why you're walking around like trying to get your soundstone filled with your memories.
Well, I thought it was trying to do kind of a this is you're following in the footsteps of your future self, like sending this stuff back.
Maybe that is.
It's like something along those lines.
It doesn't really tell you within the game.
Yeah, it leaves it a little vague, but that was kind of my impression, is like you've already basically done this, but you don't really remember that you've done it, and so you have to like remember what your future self did, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a little wacky, but it's something along those lines. The other one I really liked was the Dungeon Man dungeon. I thought was really fun.
Dungeon Man's great.
Yeah.
There's literally a man that is a dungeon man.
Yes, that is so meta. It hurts.
it's like, what the fuck is this guy?
He literally has signs all over the place explaining various dungeon design tropes as you go through them.
And you find him earlier in the game, and he's just a dude.
Yes.
He's a normal guy who just wants to be a dungeon.
Yes.
And throughout the game, he makes himself a dungeon.
Yes. He was affected by Gygas too, I think, but like in a positive way, right?
I don't know, man.
I'm trying to remember.
I have no idea.
I'm trying to remember if that was Gygas or something else. I feel like he was also affected by Gygas, but like his thing he wanted was so harmless relatively. I mean, harmful for people going through the dungeons, but not he wasn't like greedy, like he wanted.
Well, I guess so. Is that what Gygas does? Is he can just kind of like
gives you like your heart's desire kind of, but most people's heart's desires are like,
I mean, that would make sense,
destructive, right?
Well, Pokey got rich.
Right. But not just rich like I have everything I want, but rich like I'm like affecting everyone around me with my greed, basically.
But there's also the village where somebody just wants to paint everything blue.
Right.
And that's what they do, is like they even paint their cows blue.
Right, but again, it's not just I want everything being blue, it's like I want the whole world to be blue and I'm gonna make a cult to make everything blue. So yeah, most of the people's desires, even these desires you think would be just harmless, end up being corrupted into being this terrible thing. Whereas this one guy, this dungeon man, like literally he just wants to make himself into a cool dungeon.
A dungeon.
Yeah, he's such a nerd about it. He wants to explain the dungeons as you go, and it's just it's so meta it hurts.
Did you like that there was a yellow submarine in them?
Yes, that was cute.
Just some awkward reference.
Yes, yeah, a lot of awkward, silly references, but most of them hit pretty well. I think one I was a little less thrilled with was the Stonehenge base. Where I thought you could... that was the one where you spent way too much time trying to get Pooh's weapon.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember the name of the one, which, again, paled in comparison with all of his teammates' weapons. Tiny drop rate. You can't come back for later. You can get massively over-leveled and still not get it.
What I do love is that, like, Jeff's dad is basically like Einstein.
Yes.
He's this mega smart scientist who also treats Jeff kind of like garbage.
I don't know. I don't think I think he's like one of those people that just doesn't know how to interact with people, is the trope, right?
He like sends Jeff off to the boarding school and then ghosts him.
I think he does that because he thinks he can't possibly do the right thing raising him, so he's like handing it off to someone he thinks can. Yeah. And then when Jeff shows up, he's not like he's like mean to him. He's just like, "Oh, hi, I'm your dad. I'm sorry I couldn't be a dad, but I'm
like, what the fuck,
I'm this super nerd, scientist guy, and I'm just trying to do what I can do,
Yeah.
Like, and he actually seems to be proud of him even that his son like turns out smart and figuring this stuff out, but like he can't really explain that well. Like he's just he's so autistic or so whatever that he's
just this goofy weird mega scientist.
I kind of liked the portrayal of something. Maybe it's not, I don't know if it's super appropriate or not, or if it's not a good depiction, but I thought it didn't make him the bad guy. He's just who he is. And,
it kind of reminds me of like Goku. It's like I'm gonna go training for like 7 years, dude. I'll be back, whatever. I'll be back. I'll see you if I see you. Not a big deal.
I thought that the final dungeon actually wasn't too long or too difficult. It was just about right, I thought, if you were on like level 70-ish or so.
Oh, sure. Where you're like basically a party of trash cans?
Yeah. I thought the fight against Gygas was fun. I didn't think it was actually as hard as Ness's Nightmare. I did kind of like the prayer mechanic for actually beating him, but I thought
did you look up a guide before that or no?
I did.
Ah, you fuck.
I know. I probably should have just done it. At that point, for certain reasons, I wanted to finish the game. I didn't realize you were going to be sick that one weekend, so I was trying to get through the game.
Yeah, I ended up getting super ill.
But so I was expecting I needed to be done by X date, and I'm like, I just need to get through this. I was, unlike Mario RPG, I was enjoying it. If I had more time, I probably just would have beat my head against it and figured it out. But I did appreciate that you literally don't just destroy him. You have to literally use this prayer thing over and over.
It's like a spirit bomb.
Yeah, and every time you use it, you're drawing in power basically from all these people you've met along the way and helped and everything. Yeah,
I loved that because normally in RPGs you meet somebody and you literally never see them again.
Yes,
they're never referenced again,
or you see them in the end briefly.
Maybe,
and if you're lucky, you see them referenced.
But here, so the Gygas battle is basically you're fighting evil, like pure evil.
Yes,
and like it is such a weird battle.
Yes,
like the graphics are something like you've never seen on Super Nintendo before. You haven't really seen it since.
Yeah,
it's like this weird abstract thing that you're facing, and it looks like this tortured soul.
Yes,
it's just like this strangest graphics.
Yeah,
and he's like talking weird like shit to you this entire battle, like basically just.
Yes,
I don't know. Like it's such like it's almost like an abstract horror movie.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to remember if it was something where if it was kind of giving it the impression like it's like some weird version of yourself, or it's like trying to understand you in some way, but it's like doing it in this destructive way. There's like different tropes that it could be, and I was trying to figure out which way they were going. I think it could just be any number of things. You just take your pick how you interpret it.
Yeah,
but
I remember the first time I faced it, it was like I was probably 10.
Right.
You know, like I didn't know what was going on. I had the guide, but like other than the items and stuff, I kind of didn't read it much.
Yeah.
And I just remember facing him just like, man, my normal attacks aren't working and I'm dying here. What am I supposed to do? I'm like, fuck it, praise this useless spell that sucked ass this entire game. Like, I'm just going to try it.
And I had never used the prayer spell, right? So I didn't really...
Because it's bad. Prayer is basically like rolling a die. Like a 12-sided die, and it just has a random effect for whatever side you get.
And I almost never use abilities like that. And and probably I imagine most people probably don't typically use that type of ability, and of course they have to then take that and make that required to beat the game. That's pretty great.
I would use it especially when you first get Paula, because like before she really gets her magic spells, and her attack is useless, so either you just spam defense or you use prayer.
And I usually spam to defense,
but like prayer would do like either something really good, it might do nothing, it might kill your party, I don't know, like it does literally anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't usually risk that. I did like the extended endgame process. You're kind of like wrapping up little quests and collectibles and stuff. You have like time to go around and do little things.
Yeah, you can visit, I think, basically anywhere you've been, right?
Yeah, basically.
The entire game.
Yeah, you can. I guess there's this thing where you can populate the kind of end scroll pictures that the picture man.
Oh shit! We didn't even talk about the fuzzy pickle man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you'll just be walking along your journey.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the game will stop, and this guy just teleports out from the top of the screen.
Yes.
Takes your picture. Yeah. Makes you say fuzzy pickles.
Right.
And then he teleports away.
Yeah, and then that populates you get the scroll at the end of the game, and that populates with those pictures basically.
See, now I can never tell if it actually populated that or if that's just a generic thing. I don't know.
I'm not entirely certain, but it's definitely not the exact picture, because some of the pictures I did were the characters were in weird positions and looked weird.
Yeah.
But I think it's the idea. I think which scenes show are based on which of those you triggered, because you have to stand in very specific places to trigger them, and sometimes you can go through an area and not trigger the picture man in that area. I think very frequently you can do that.
Yeah, if anyone knows, feel free to leave a comment, because I actually have no idea.
I will say, based on what I was reading in some of the guides later, apparently you can get in a game over loop if you die to certain enemies that can be left in the game in the end game credits.
No shit.
Yeah, there's certain things that can be left in the game in certain specific areas that if you go and fight them and lose, you can get in a game over loop.
Now I forget, is there really anything else to do at the end of the game other than just talk to random NPCs that say like, hey, cool, you saved the world?
There, like I said, there's some collectibles, like questy things that you can finish that you might not have finished before beating the game. There's a few weird things. I mean, nothing that I was in a huge, need to finish, but if you didn't get all the picture man stuff, there's certain things that you can finish.
You can go back and do some of those?
Yeah, some of those you can still find. Yeah. Anyway, as far as would I play this again, I will say, as much as I enjoyed it, I'm not sure I would necessarily play it again just because of how much effort it took, but I did enjoy it. I might play a remake, because like some things like the extreme limited space,
I would play a remake in a second.
Some of the minor upgrades from the items I missed seemed a little pointless. It's a little too long to play super casually. definitely worth the single playthrough, but I might prefer a few quality of life changes in a remake. I might be, and I'm aware there's all these other Mother games, including one on the NES that I never got around to playing.
Mother Beginnings or Mother 1, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Or Earthbound Beginnings, I think they renamed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that you see a lot of remake game boxes for, because they never obviously came out over here, but there's some good fan translations for it.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and play that. I would wholeheartedly recommend Mother 3.
Yeah.
Although it's a very different, feeling type of game. Like, it is not as cheerful as Earthbound.
Right.
In fact, it's almost the complete opposite, which, I kind of don't like it because of that.
Yeah.
But if you want to play more Earthbound, more games in the Mother series, you kind of have to play Mother 3.
And I'm trying to remember, didn't Mother 1, didn't they finally, I don't know if it was a re-release, but I think it was a translation or something.
They threw it out on the virtual console or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find ROM hacks out there about it all day long.
They've had that forever. But I think Nintendo finally was like, okay, we better do this.
And there was Mother 4, which got renamed to Oddity, was a fan-based Mother sequel that was supposed to be released years and years ago.
Huh.
And they had a lot of sprite work done. They had nice trailers.
Yeah.
But that project kind of was just delayed indefinitely, and I think a lot of the original development team just kind of left.
Huh.
But if you ever get a chance, go out to the Oddity website or Mother 4 website and just look to see what people were doing trying to make a sequel, because this is a game. Earthbound in particular has a large fan following.
I believe
it's a very big cult following.
I believe it.
That I initially found this game. So when I was a kid, I walked into a movie gallery, and I, where they have all the game boxes right there that you can see. Well, Earthbound's box is freaking massive.
It stands out,
because it has the player's guide included in it.
Right.
And I saw this, and I had only played a couple RPGs, I think, in my life at that point. Probably the Final Fantasy Legend on Game Boy.
Yeah.
And I may or may not have played Mario RPG around this point.
Yeah.
And I played maybe a second of Dragon Warrior. So this is one of the first RPGs I've actually ever played. And I don't know. They just had weird marketing. You'd see it kind of in magazines and such. But, But yeah, Mother 4, I don't think will ever actually get made. Mother 3 is fantastic, but it's never been re-released. You can only find translated ROMs of the Game Boy Advance title out there, which we have Analog Pocket, so it'd be easy enough to play.
Yeah. I never played this back in the day. I was aware of it. Again, this is one of those that I kind of looked at it, and I started playing
it. Looks kiddie, right?
It looks a little too kiddie. It's one of those I started playing on emulators over the years, and I just never sat down and gave it a chance.
Yeah.
And unlike Mario RPG, I wish I had, because I would have probably enjoyed it a lot more the earlier I tried it.
So I look at the back of Earthbound and you see Nessie on the back, which is the Loch Ness Monster, but it's got this goofy smile on it.
Yeah.
It's this looks like a game made for 4-year-olds.
It's very, but it is very charming though.
It's incredibly charming.
Yeah.
The screenshots don't do the game justice.
Right.
It's a very bright and colorful game. The music is just almost perfect for what the game is.
Yep. I will say the only thing I have it lose points at all for me would be some of the minor UI and item management elements.
Sure. But so
I spent way too much time mailing stuff back and forth.
It's kind of a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'll give some of the item systems in a lot of early Super Nintendo games. I mean, this wasn't an early one.
Yeah.
But even Breath of Fire has kind of a shitty itemization. Lufia doesn't have a great one. You know, the Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore don't have the greatest item system. So that stuff I can kind of look past when it comes to this. It's not in PlayStation era, usually they work that out a little bit more.
Yes.
In Super Nintendo, you kind of get what you get. Not every game is Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, so there's that. I wasn't super thrilled about some of the punishingly low drop rates for some of the best items, and wasting too much time trying. That kind of annoyed me. I ended up giving it a kind of flexible 4.5, but I wouldn't be against giving it a 5. I mean, it's really hard to criticize this game.
Yeah, I mean, you can criticize it for just being a Super Nintendo game and just having faults for, it's Super Nintendo RPG. Some of them just have some shitty, janky systems in it.
Yeah, I still might prefer to play a more traditional game generally, but I mean, as far as what this game is, it's just about perfect.
Yeah, there's not much else they could do better other than release a goddamn sequel.
Right,
which
right.
They'll never do. I mean, Iwata, he's gone.
Yeah.
And the other developer has said basically he just wants no part of making a sequel, so.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes something is self-contained and perfect as it is, and
yeah.
I could see, I mean, as much as this game had sequel bait, and it sounds like they took advantage of some of that in Mother 3.
But again, a very different type of game.
Yeah, and I could see that. Like, this feels like this would have to be a very personal game. Like, you might have to be in a certain place to make this game.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you're in a different place 10 or 20 years later, maybe you couldn't make that same game again.
Yeah, like... I don't know. I don't want to spoil Mother 3, but just to say, like, it's not the same experience, but it's still a very good game.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Earthbound, I definitely give a 5. It's one of those games where it's just like, dude, there's no other RPG like it.
Yeah.
There's some RPGs that have come out in recent years that are kind of like it, like your Undertales.
Yeah.
But even that, to me, doesn't capture the same thing. Like, Undertale, for me, feels like it's trying to copy Earthbound instead of being like completely its own original thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
And, for that, it's like, man, I don't know if you can ever recapture the magic that is Earthbound exactly how it was.
Yeah, but this is what I was thinking earlier. I gave Super Mario RPG a 4, and I gave this a 4.5. Honestly, if you bumped them up both half a star, I wouldn't argue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I my quibbles are pretty minor, honestly, with both games. So they're both very good RPGs.
Did you ever? I don't know if you had Nintendo Power back in the day during this era. But during the Nintendo 64 era, they did release images for Earthbound 64.
Yeah, I don't think I remember seeing that. But
I remember seeing those as a kid. I mean, like, I have a set of Nintendo Powers. I can pull them out, but like they're in there.
Right.
But I think that game was then canned and later remade as Mother 3. So I think it's the same story that they were going for.
Right, right.
Just obviously it went from like Nintendo 64 graphics to a Game Boy Advance. So it's much different. Dave, I just have one last question for you. Did you ever face a New Age retro hippie in Earthbound?
New Age retro hippie? I don't remember. I think so, but I'm not certain about that.
You would know it if you saw it. So, like in...
I think so, but...
Maybe it's Tucson or...
I think so.
3,
I think I did.
Yeah, once you face one, like, you get, like, this weird, like, hippie guitar mix. It's like one of the only battles that has its own music track.
I might not have noticed.
Super weird.
But yeah, there's a couple stages where I was doing a little grindy stuff and I might have been listening to a podcast at the same time or something. But
yeah, you only find them in like this one particular area of the game. It's just some like random hippie.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but I don't know. I'll have to check that out again. I don't know if I remember specifically.
Or the angry old lady.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many wacky characters. You got to give them credit. As for when most RPGs at the time would have, a dozen or a couple dozen different enemy types, and usually 3 different colors of each one.
Yeah, green Cybermen, blue Cybermen.
So you got to give them credit for the wild variety of things. And the towns that would have these random people that would just go evil and try and attack you, and stuff. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, very cool game. But
yeah,
those are the 2 that we were talking about today. So I think we're signing off.
Have a good one.
Peace.